Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
"1999 was one of those years Hollywood still brags about. You had The Matrix blowing minds, The Sixth Sense turning whispering into a national sport, and Toy Story 2 proving sequels didn't have to be lazy. It felt like the industry could do no wrong. But look a little closer and you'll find something just as interesting: a trail of box office misfires. Movies that arrived with huge confidence and big studio backing, only to faceplant on release. Yet, time has a funny way of rewriting reputations. Some of these films found second lives on DVD shelves, in college dorm rooms, at midnight screenings, and later on Reddit threads where fans defend them with surprising passion. They didn't work in '99, but today they've earned a strange sort of respect. Here are 12 movies that flopped in 1999 but eventually became cult favorites.
I believe in my powers.
I believe in my powers.
I believe in the powers of my teammates.
I believe in the powers of my teammates.
Number 12. Mystery Men. No superhero movie in 1995 confused studios more than Mystery Men. It was released at a time when superhero movies weren't cultural currency. They were punchlines. The film leaned into absurdity. A team of low-rent heroes with abilities that barely even count as superpowers. Ben Stiller's Furious, who gets angry sometimes. William H. Macy's Shoveler, who shovels. The studio had no idea how to market something this odd, and audiences didn't know what to make of it. The budget was huge for such a gamble, nearly $70 million, and the movie barely made back half. Critics dismissed it as too weird for its own good. But over the years, its bright, chaotic aesthetic and deadpan humor aged surprisingly well. Fans embraced it as a satire that understood the superhero genre before the genre understood itself. Today, Mystery Men feels like a blueprint for everything from The Tick to Deadpool. It was a flop, but it's a badge of honor among cult movie fans.
The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
Number 11. Fight Club. It's hard to believe now, but Fight Club wasn't a box office monster when it debuted. The marketing couldn't decide what the film even was. A dark comedy? An anti-consumerist statement? An underground brawler movie? Most audiences stayed away and plenty of critics hated it. The film's bleak tone, anarchist energy, and twist ending made it a hard sell in a late 90s landscape still chasing feel-good blockbusters. Domestically, it fell far short of expectations, and international numbers weren't much better. Then, DVD culture hit. Suddenly, Fight Club was everywhere. Dorm rooms, midnight screenings, forums, early YouTube video essays. A film that once confused people became a generational landmark. Today it's quoted, analyzed, imitated, and endlessly debated. The irony is fitting. A movie mocking consumer culture became one of the most consumed films of the 2000s. Fight Club didn't succeed in theaters, but it conquered everything after. Number 10. Office Space. Office Space had a simple problem. It was released before workplaces became the shared cultural meme they are now. In '99, cubicle misery wasn't funny yet. It was just life. The studio barely promoted the film. The theatrical run was tiny and the poster confused everyone. But then came DVD sales, then cable reruns, then the internet. Suddenly Milton Stapler, PC Load Letter, and the destroyed printer scene were everywhere. Mike Judge accidentally created the definitive comedy about white-collar boredom. But it took a few years for America to realize it. Office Space is now so embedded in workplace humor that it's hard to imagine it ever failed. But it did, badly. Its cult following grew slowly, fueled by people who recognized their own dead-end jobs in every frame. Somehow, that flop became the unofficial anthem of everyone who has ever hated their boss. Number 9. The Iron Giant. Now, The Iron Giant was one of the most painful studio misfires of the decade. Warner Brothers released it with almost no marketing, too busy focusing on other projects. Families barely knew it existed. Those who did see it, though, realized it was something special. A heartfelt story about a boy, a robot, and the fear-driven world around them. Critics adored it, but the box office never reflected that admiration. The studio barely knew how to market its Cold War themes, which didn't help. Over time, The Iron Giant became one of animation's most beloved underdogs. It found new life on home video and streaming, praised for its emotional depth and quiet wisdom. Brad Bird would later go on to make The Incredibles, but many fans still swear this is his best film. It arrived quietly, it stayed quietly, then it became a classic. If you're still with me, you're definitely one of the people who remembers 99 a little too well. Hit the like button so YouTube knows you love these forgotten movie deep dives, and so more film fans can join us down this rabbit hole. Number 8. Election. Election was clever, sharp, and almost too smart for its own marketing. Reese Witherspoon's Tracy flick became iconic, but audiences in '99 barely noticed. The film struggled to find viewers who weren't sure if it was a teen comedy or a political satire wearing a high school varsity jacket. It made just a fraction of its budget back, and many theaters dropped it quickly. But critics championed it, and over time, its reputation only grew. Today, Election is considered one of the great American comedies of the 90s. A satire so precise that political analysts still reference Tracy flick as a cultural shorthand. It's the kind of movie that becomes bigger every time the country goes through another election cycle, which is probably why it never truly fades. Number 7. Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest had everything working against it on release. It opened in December, a month crowded with heavy hitters, marketing that made it look like a kids movie, and a premise, a washed-up sci-fi cast mistaken for real heroes that was easy to misunderstand. The result was a modest box office run that didn't reflect how funny and surprisingly heartfelt the film actually was. Sci-fi fans were the first to notice. Then convention communities noticed. Then the internet noticed. By the mid-2000s, Galaxy Quest had become a beloved love letter to Star Trek fans, fandom culture, and the strange bond between audiences and their fictional heroes. Today, it's widely considered one of the best sci-fi comedies ever made. Never give up, never surrender. It grew into a cult classic while the bigger releases soaked up all the attention. Number 6. Man on the Moon. Jim Carrey owned the 90s, but Man on the Moon wasn't what audiences were looking for from him. The offbeat Andy Kaufman biopic confused mainstream audiences who expected Jim Carrey to deliver another broad comedy. The film underperformed despite strong reviews, and many viewers simply didn't connect with Kaufman's eccentric legacy. But Carrey's performance aged beautifully, especially as behind-the-scenes stories emerged about his intense method acting on set. The documentary Jim and Andy later reignited interest, turning the film into a fascinating artifact about performance and the blurry line between real and absurd. Definitely started slow, but it earned its cult status one curious viewer at a time. Alright, we're officially past the halfway point, and the strangest movies are still ahead. If you're enjoying this trip through 1999's misfires, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Trust me, the top 5 is where things really get weird. Number 5. Cruel Intentions. Cruel Intentions earned decent money, but not nearly as much as the studio expected given the cast and marketing push. Critics were split. Some loved the playful nastiness, others dismissed it completely. But time was incredibly kind to this movie. Its style, tone, and soundtrack became staples of late 90s pop culture. Sarah Michelle Gellar's performance became iconic, and the film blossomed into a teen movie classic with an edge no other film in the genre really matched. Its cult fandom is extremely loyal, quoting lines, celebrating its fashion, and revisiting its melodrama with affection. Cruel Intentions wasn't built to be timeless, but somehow, that's exactly what happened. Number 4. The Boondock Saints. Few films illustrate the phrase cult classic better than The Boondock Saints. Its theatrical release was nearly non-existent, crippled by distribution issues and a marketing blackout. The movie made peanuts, but on home video, it exploded. College campuses turned it into an anthem of vigilante cool. Posters went up in dorms. Lines were quoted endlessly. The movie built a loyal army of fans who felt like they had discovered something forbidden. Critics still argue about its artistic value, but that doesn't matter. The film's cult audience turned it from a forgotten indie flick into a small empire, complete with a sequel, merch, and endless debates about whether it's brilliant or ridiculous. Love it or hate it, its second life was enormous. Number 3. Drop Dead Gorgeous. Here we have Drop Dead Gorgeous, buried by its own studio. Barely promoted, quickly dumped, and misunderstood on arrival. Critics didn't know what to make of its pitch-black humor. Audiences didn't show up. And coming so soon after Columbine, its tone landed at the worst possible moment. Studios panicked about anything satirical or dark involving teenagers, which buried its release. But over the years, the film found people who got it. Its mockumentary style, sharp writing, and fearless satire turned it into a cult favorite, especially among younger viewers discovering it through word of mouth. Kirsten Dunst, Allison Janney, Denise Richards. The cast alone deserved more attention, but the script, a brutal takedown of beauty pageant culture, aged into something shockingly modern. Drop Dead Gorgeous wasn't really appreciated in '99. Today, it's quoted, memed, and taught in film comedy circles.
Any last requests, pig?
Yeah, loosen the knot and let me go.
Yeah, man! Of course we don't let him go!
Number 2. The Mummy. The Mummy wasn't a flop, but it wasn't treated like a future classic either. Critics were mixed. The CGI was mocked, and studios didn't expect it to have the shelf life it ended up having. Many dismissed it as a chaotic, slightly goofy blockbuster, but audiences rewatched it, then rewatched it again and again. Brendan Fraser's charm, Rachel Weisz's chemistry, the combination of horror and swashbuckling adventure, it all kind of clicked. Behind the scenes, the production was a constant tightrope walk. Early CGI, sandstorm effects that barely worked, stunts Fraser insisted on doing himself, including one that knocked him unconscious, and a tone the studio struggled to describe. Today it's become a sleepover movie, a comfort film, a Saturday afternoon cable staple, and it's one of the most beloved adventure movies of its era. A film that reminded people just how fun movies could be when they didn't try so hard to be serious. Number 1. The Matrix. It might feel strange calling The Matrix a slow starter, but hear this out. The film didn't open as a smash hit, at least not at first. Box office tracking was soft. Early audiences weren't sure what bullet time was, and the marketing was deliberately cryptic. Its opening weekend was modest compared to the hype surrounding other 1999 releases, but word of mouth hit like a tidal wave. People dragged friends to theaters. The movie became a phenomenon after opening weekend, not during it. Technically, it wasn't a financial flop, but its slow start and misunderstood marketing led many to underestimate it. Today, it's the definition of a cult film that became mainstream, a film that grew from quiet curiosity into a revolution. So 1999 may be remembered for its giants, but these misfires tell the other half of the story. The movies that needed time, patience, and loyal fans to get the recognition they deserved. Some were too strange for their decade, others were mismarketed, and a few were just plain unlucky. But every one of them proved the same truth. The box office is only the opening weekend. The audience writes the ending. Which one do you think deserved better the first time around? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this journey through the misfits of '99, don't forget to subscribe for more overlooked gems and Hollywood oddities. See you next time.